Hello and welcome back, and we're continuing our wrap-ups of Computex last week. Today I want to talk about QNAP. We went to the QNAP stand, we were there for a great deal of time, and when we were there we were looking at a lot of their hardware and software innovations. Now, first and foremost, let's get it straight off the bat, there was a lot of stuff there from IEI, the company that owns QNAP, and I didn't cover a lot of it for a few reasons. One, because a lot of that stuff doesn't really make it over here. A lot to the Western audiences, and a lot of it is directly B2B, business to business. So we're not really going to touch too much on IEI products, apart from one obvious one that we always talk about. So if you have come here for some of the IEI puzzle series, that's one thing we will be trying to focus on that in future videos, but we're not really talking about that. We're talking purely about QNAP stuff today. So based on what I put out there when I was out there in Taipei, you know, eating long bao noodles and all sorts, what was the big takeaway for you as a viewer of the QNAP?
I think they start investing into software as well now. They were focusing more on surveillance this time, more than usually. So you seem to be a bit more excited as well about talking about it.
Absolutely. I mean, their software, I think it's been a long-standing fact here on the channel that we will talk about Synology and QNAP in very much Windows versus Mac, software versus hardware, where do they spend their money? And with QNAP this time, I saw a lot more software. I mean, to summarise very, very quickly, there was obviously QMAGI, which if a number of you, if you do own a QNAP NAS right now, the beta for QTS 4.4.1, my overview coming very, very soon, is now live. And with that, you can get both the Multimedia Manager, and with that, I think it's Console, I think it's called Multimedia Console, and QMAGI. And with that, you've got that photo recognition and thing recognition, and all that AI supported deep learning and all that stuff. But on top of that, they were showing QVR Face, which is the facial recognition component and add-on for QVR Pro. And they were showing it there on the stand, and people were walking by and it was identifying faces. And that is now that's the beginning. Because once you've got that nailed down within their surveillance will then start having thing identification and AI deep learning and all the things we talked about from Synology with their DVA 3219, which is still yet to be released, with hardware that's always been available with QNAP. They've always had GPU card support. They've always had these more powerful CPUs inside that have a rendering and AI enabled and equipped engine ready to rock. So the fact that they were included, that's why I was so excited about it, because it made it a lot more attainable with the Synology solution for its surveillance platform, which is still very, very good, let's be honest. They still haven't incorporated that, and when they do incorporate it, it's going to be within one device. Whereas this QNAP support is going to be available on a wide range of devices, with facial recognition only being the tip of the iceberg. It's going to move forward very, very quickly. It stands to reason. They didn't show that, but it's just it's implicit. You can't really, it would have to go down that road.
Yes, because they haven't released any new models now. They're more focusing now on accessories like drive adapters, SSD adapters, 10 gigabit, 5 gigabit.
That could be the release schedule though. That could be that thing, that 18 to 2 year cycle that most of these companies have. But again, that's just hypothetical. That's not a fact.
Do you have hands-on on 5 gig adapter?
5 gig adapter, I finally got to get my hands on it, and I think we should be having one here on the channel very soon. Again, I love the idea of that thing. It's just changed the game. Like everyone's talking about 10 GBE, 1 GBE, and 2.5 GBE. We'll talk about in another video. But the idea of this USB adapter has just removed a lot of the mucking around for a number of us. Like right now, we've got this 253B. This has got PCIe slot in the rear, and even if you did put a 10 GBE card in there for about 90 quid, whatever QNAP's card costs, you still need to have that port on your machine. The idea of this 5 GBE to USB adapter that works both on your device and on the NAS.
So just turn it around.
Incredible game changer. And the fact that it's bus powered, the fact that it's simple, it's plug and play, that's ticked a lot of boxes for a lot of people. So, I mean, things like the Wacom LAN adapter, the QWU.
Interesting, yeah, but it's more like for companies.
For the people that need that, they'll be over the moon. It's got its own dedicated UI, app access. So the idea, like a lot of people with smart home, this one portal access point that can control all those other devices, that's going to be hugely advantageous. But given that not a lot of NAS users use Wacom LAN anyway, both on their desktop machines and on the NAS,
there are people who actually want to save some energy because they're not constantly using NAS services, so they want maybe remotely to switch off the NAS or automatically switch it on. The same thing was because they had the problem with I think QNAP that when they have UPS and the power goes off, the NAS switches off, but it never was switched back on.
Yeah.
So I guess with this device, they actually sorted this problem. That no, you can actually restart your NAS after power came back. You know.
But carrying on talking about accessories, we can talk about those new switches. So the new series of switches, those QSW switches, are a much even more affordable version.
Yeah, I love to see those actually. Yeah, that's true.
Because that was a lovely middle ground.
Exactly, because before they had 10 gig multi-port switch, which is a great thing if you have multiple 4K editors. But if you just want to split your 10 gigabit connection into giving everyone 1 gig stream, you know, the bandwidth, then there's an affordable way to do that. Because there's no point having pay double as much for 10 gigabit where you can have 1 gigabit port switch split into
so there was no fan inside, so it's not noisy. But what's really interesting, as you say, is you've got 8 1 GBE ports, you've got your PCs and your peripherals and all that stuff, and either 3 SFP 10 GBE ports, so to attach lots of 10 GBE devices, therefore every 1 GBE connected user maxes there, yeah. But on top of that, you've got the combo version, which has got an SFP port and an SFP and copper 10G base T combo together. So again, those two versions...
You can choose between one or another.
Of course. And it was just, that's a lovely device. But my one complaint about it, I'm sorry to sack QNAP, is why are you still producing unmanaged switches? When your NASs have what I would arguably say is the best switch and network management user interface and tool any NAS provider has. Not a single NAS provider, and I am including Netgear with this, have a better application than their network and virtual switch application. Exactly. It's incredible. It's so versatile. So why on earth can they not just go...
Yes, boop, because they have so many models with 4 LAN ports on it, and you can't link aggregate it with QNAP switch, so you need to go for Netgear switches if you want to do so. And have 4 gigabit connection.
And it's just, it seems bizarre that you're not able to do that, and I'm surprised you, for example, don't get, they haven't, maybe they've looked into it and not seen it as versatile, but imagine that switch that we just discussed with the PCIe slot. Imagine that, just a PCIe slot, but then to do that you'd need a better CPU, which brings us onto the other switch, that Guardian switch. And again, let's be completely frank, we get a lot of samples here on the channel from different brands. They send it reviews or unboxings, or they've got a few knocking around and they want to stick in the background or something. But very, very rarely will we think to ourselves, I want to buy that device. The Guardian, I will buy.
Yeah.
I can tell you right now, I'm going to buy that device. I'm not going to try and get a sample or beg, because that's a good device.
Yeah, you can turn it into whatever you want. And NAS.
They've upgraded the CPU since its first release. It's now got a better CPU. I think it's the J4115. I can't remember, but it's an even more powerful CPU inside that. It's got the memory options in there. It's got PCIe upgradability, and it's got a bloody switch rammed on the side.
Yeah, so you can combine all these peripherals into one thing. One switch, sorts it out.
And so and then you can add those 10 GBE ports with that switch, and it's PoE for your cameras in that environment as well.
Yeah.
And you've then got the virtual network switch software, and you've got the switch. So if you can do it there, do it on the other version. But that to me was a hot piece of kit.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong, some bits are fun, like the AFOBot. When we're looking at the AFOBot and AFOBot 2, still never really hit the ground running that. And they've released AFOBot 2, which has got an accessory in terms of software called AFOmeter, which, if you look at the history of companies like Sega and Amiga, and
it's not
a great way to go about it. Yeah, but again, that's like an IEI thing. We focus on it a lot because it's always left a good impression on me when we did the videos with the communication. Because brands like Synology, they have a tendency to try to recreate popular apps in their first party, whereas companies like QNAP have a tendency to support users with that third-party software and help to facilitate that. Now, AFOBot had this potential, and still does, to replace companies like, in terms of your NAS, Synology Chat or WhatsApp or all these different things in terms of communication. But I'm surprised they don't import that software, even as a subscription service, from AFOBot onto QNAP NAS. the ability to be able to communicate with live communication and using your phone, and all the communication is within that NAS network. You've got that safety that you really, really want in that. With software, we can talk about that protection. There was the U drive. You remember the checks on drives? Basically, the idea that you can all your hard drives you've got in your machine will be checked on this server, and if there's indicators of poor drive health.
Yes.
Now
I don't know how advanced it is. Is it going to be as good as Synology promised? A self sort of predicted drive failure prediction sort of system, which is not out yet. But QNAP is already getting there. But is it going to automatically replace the drive? Is it going to switch to like the spare drive?
When I asked them at the show, at the moment it's still very much in its infancy. The service with the third-party provider, because they don't take data from your disks. They're not. All they're getting is analytical data of the way the drives are used, the vibration sensor, the temperature, all that sort of stuff, and it's all relayed back to this third-party thing that you can access via your browser. And you've got this special QNAP user interface thing, and it gives you indicators about the drives, and then it uses that information against thousands of drives and history and information to say, oh, this is flagging and showing us certain indicators that, by our experience, shows it could be problematic. But you're right, at this time, that information stops there. It's up to you to do the rest. But they're saying,
I'm going to sleep at 9 and I'm not going to find out till next morning, or I'm on a holiday and I can't see what's going on with the NAS, so there's still a potential for drive to fail.
Eddie goes to sleep at 9, he's a monk, it's a whole thing. But like this idea that they said that they're going to move forward with this, the idea is that there'll be a user interface and an app on QTS and the ability for these alerts to happen, but whether they'll do that hot swap functionality that Synology have got there.
They haven't got it yet. They are promising to have it very soon.
But apart from that, for me, QNAP put forward a lot of software this year. The hardware they did put was a mixed bag. They were like the switch stuff, love it. The adapt stuff, like most of it, But I do think it's a case of,
because I was expecting them to release actually more hardware, like they got 72XT series Thunderbolt. I was expecting them to release something without Thunderbolt core card, or with i7 CPU even. They released their new rack mounts now as well, I think.
Yes, some of those really hungry beast devices. We are in the business time of year, that has to be said. But whether I still think there's a slight
because they stand out because they have so many PCI slots available, so it's kind of good for video editors. We can have double 10 gig port cards put in there, and so you can sort out like 20 editors on that one box.
But I think it's fair to say that most people watching these videos, a lot of you aren't the people that are going to buy those rack mounts. The people that watch a lot of these videos are people that are looking at desktop devices or looking at more mid-range rack mount devices, and of that stuff we saw very little. I didn't see hardly anything there within that bracket in terms of new. Whether that changes before Q3, September, October, November, that sort of thing, who's to say? But right now they seem to be putting a lot of that money into software, and I hope it pays off.
Yeah, they should.
Because a lot of people buy NAS for utility. They look at the hardware, they look at the software, but they buy it to fit a certain role in their life or their business. And with things like the innovation of that surveillance and that drive failure prediction, if they can elevate that.
Yeah, exactly.
Because QMaggie, one thing before I was here yesterday I was working on my QMaggie beta versus Synology moments versus, and one thing I will tell you right now, even in preliminary stages of that video, and it's incomplete, while it was sequencing, the Synology versus QNAP on that photo recognition was much better on the QNAP. So for example, the QNAP, one might argue, gave more information. For example, I won't lie, I like a drink, so a lot of the photos had different kinds of beverage. So the Synology classed them as drink, or I think one of them was soda, whereas on the QNAP it identified it as beer, alcohol, cocktail, soft drink, and it was really broken down quite significantly in that things, and that same logic applied to a whole myriad of different things. So that software, they're clearly doing very well, and of course they are using the Google AI algorithm, I think to a degree. You can kind of get that, companies can get it licensed, but how they use it is up to them. And I think
that's easier for photo editors who need specific
oh yeah
to filter down images which are, if they want to talk about just like a cocktail to show all cocktail pictures instead of drinks pictures, but you still need to.
Do you know, you mentioned that and you just reminded me, when I was scrolling through the list of options and frankly being quite impressed, when I got to the bottom there was one there that said hydrangea. So it was a flower, right, a flower in a bush in the background during Taipei. It was in the background, a big red hydrangea, which I didn't know was native to that region. A lot about flowers, a whole thing. But it was the fact that on the Synology, it did class it as flowers. But on the QNAP, it was classed as hydrangea, which is a fantastically precise definition. You know, it made me want to upload pictures of a crap load of flowers just to see how deep the rabbit hole went. So again, I was left impressed by their software.
But it might be as well problem if you want to have narrow down your search to all
said
flowers.
As both. It had both. It had both of them. Sorry, I should have articulated that. But nevertheless, we are going to talk more about QNAP. We're going to sort of move away from Computex and go to more specific videos very soon. But if you've got any questions about QNAP, I'm hoping to talk more about them in the coming weeks and, of course, do a Q&A with them too very, very soon. Otherwise, thank you so much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed this. Eddie, once again, I'm going to give you a few seconds time to let your voice to the world.
I think we're going to run out of battery soon.
Yes, absolutely. I can see the little red light. We're really knocking these out. But otherwise, thank you so much for watching. We'll see you next time.
Okay, bye.